I found something on the internet, on the streets of the internet, and I found it worth playing to you. Just listen in.
Naenda ile njia yetu Shatobile, kupitia ile njia ya Bulu, uende umwambie Baba Bosco baba yake, umwambie ende akalale kwao.
Kana flow.
Naenda ile njia yetu Shatobile, kupitia ile njia ya Bulu.
Well, I know you know that tune from somewhere, right? Yeah, you didn't guess wrong. You guessed it right. Maproso by our very own Wakadinali. Sounds sweet. Sounds so Wakadinali. Sounds so rich, authentic, Kenyan, gangster. Everything Kenyan you can explain about that song, the harmonies, the authenticity. It has everything, the emotion. Name it all that is in that tune. And this song, or this specific tune, to make the Maproso song by Wakadinali and Susanna Owio, got me wondering, what is actually the Kenyan sound? If we were asked, what is the Kenyan sound? How would you define the Kenyan sound? Nigerians have Afrobeat. South Africans have Amapiano. What about us Kenyans? What is our music? What's our definition music? Is it gengeton? Is it urban tone? Is it mugithi? Is it genge? Is it taarab? Is it benga? Is it bongo? Is it rap? Is it hip hop? Is it reggae? What's our Kenyan music identity? What is that one sound that would define Kenya? Because, well, Kenya, we are exposed musically. We have to appreciate that. We are really exposed, and there's a lot of great music. But I feel that the Kenyan musical industry has not exactly given us the 100% authenticity of a sound that we can rely on. Well, creating a sound is not the easiest thing in the world, where you would say that you create a sound that people follow. It's a difficult one. And that's why I'm using the case of Wakadinali as people who are slowly by slowly creating a sound. Why? Because in them is embedded the DNA of the Kenyan music. I can draw different examples from quite a number of their songs, and also other musicians, but I decided to narrow down to this specific song, Maproso. Maproso, these guys went and used a tune by Mwenda Jean Bosco, a song called Masanga. This song Masanga yenye tumesikia the tune there, it was actually recorded in 1950. Had some really nice tune, some really clean guitar, right? You can feel the plucking and how great it felt. Well, these are some of the musicians who had come after the Second World War. They had survived the Second World War. They had learned the guitar. They had learned the white man's way of playing, and then they fused it with their cultural way or their culture. And then they would come up with something nice like that. And then, over 70 years later, Wakadinali make this Maproso song, and you wonder why it's always stuck in your mind like an broken record. It's because it has that authenticity of Kenyanness. Iko na Ukenya ndani yake. Iko na Ukenya ndani yake. It's hard to strike a balance between originality and inspiration, or what you'll say that somebody and a copy. And that's why I've had a lot of slander being put on the urban tone artists where wana copy ngoma za wenyewe. I always feel that any form of art comes from an inspiration. There must be something inspiring you to make this form of art, whether it's music, whether it's a drawing. You have to have a mental picture. You have to have something that you ever visualized that is close to what you want to make for you to be able to create. So I feel that urban tone as a genre of music in Kenya tried to gain inspiration from a sound that was not actually Kenyan, a Western sound. Yes, there was a bit of the genge music, but there was a lot of Western sound. Na actually kuna ile ngoma na kamsa hii ile ilitolewa kwa YouTube or something. I can't remember. But there was that saga, I remember. Haikuwa na kamsa, ilikuwa ni ngoma gani? Anyway, I feel urban tone artists have tried to draw inspiration. Sisemi wamecopy. They've drawn inspiration from music that is necessarily not ours. Would they have done it with some Kenyan music? Yes. But kumekuwa na the notion that has always been thrown that Kenyan music is not good, Kenyan music is trash. I feel that Kenyans, we are so rich when it comes to music. We are so rich, and after COVID and after being able to break the barrier of reaching audiences through internet, we can see how even our own cultural music and our own local musicians are growing, because people have the preference of choosing what they want to play. Unlike wakati ya radio wenye people wenyewe walikuwa wamekanyagiwa, then there always used to be issues with the DJs, nini, all that kind of stuff. But is it okay to borrow from the Western side of people, or from sounds that are not necessarily ours? Yes, it is. You can borrow from whatever kind of genre that you'd like. But at the same time, you have to fuse it with your own for it to get that originality. Creating a sound that is purely authentic, purely someone would be able to listen to a song and tell you, oh, I bet 9 over 10, that song is Kenyan. What is it that you would put in it? You would even go back from getting creativity kama hii ya Wakadinali, going to the 1950s. Look for that cartoon, kakitu kamoja utaenda, you put on loop or whatever you do to it, or even words. You might find a very good tune that gives you the kind of club banger that you've been waiting for. And one of the most successful musicians sorry. So my point is, Kenyan music can always borrow from other genres, whether it's reggae, hip-hop, blues, amapiano, afrobeat, whichever tunataka. But it must always be based on our Kenyan musical roots, because those musical roots will always give us our identity. It will always have our DNA. I am the child of my parents, my father and mother. Embedded in me is the DNA of my father and mother. In as much as I learn something new, in as much as I learn other genres of music, but deep inside me There's the root of where I came from. There's the nature of me yenye iko hapo chini. And some of the musicians, especially like Bien, he's been so successful because he's understood on the importance of having that Kenyanicity, hiyo Kenya from the root of his music. And actually unaweza angalia, there are quite a number of sounds which I would pick for you za ngoma za Sauti Sol and Bien, that you can definitely tell the sound that inspired them. And even I think kuna wakati nilikuwa na watch Bien talking in an interview CTA, and he was actually talking about how he grew up listening to the likes of Katitu, and that would explain a lot about the lead guitar licks that are always on the on ngoma za Bien ama za Sauti Sol. Hebu tusikie what he had to say.
Oh, there's an era that we haven't talked about, and that is such a huge Sauti Sol sound, Benga.
Oh, Benga. Hey, Benga now, when I was a kid, I used to travel with my dad a lot. Kilifi, where my uncle lived in Kapsabet. I used to go to any place that I went where there were Kenyans. It was always Maroon Commandos playing. It was always the Mushrooms playing. It was always what I feel even right now I'm trying to replicate in my music. When you listen to Nenda Nenda Lote.
I feel Wakadinali are going to shape the Kenyan sound in a big way. They are in the modern era. I've given the example of the song Maproso and the inspiration from John Bosco Mwenda. And the fact that they've been able to create a modern sound and fuse it with the Kenyan DNA, because Kenyans have been born loving guitar. Kenya tunapenda guitar tu sana. All those guitar licks, they are the reason as to why we love even like rumba. We are not piano people, we are more of guitar people. And even our ancestors had stringed instruments in most of the cultures. Ukienda kwa Wajaka, uende kwa Wakamba, uende kwa Wakikuyu, there used to be stringed instruments. Hizi vitu za kufinya zimekujwa na mzungu na hazijai bamba Muafrika. So these Wakadinali guys are fusing that and being able to create a Kenyan sound, a movement. It's so difficult to create a sound, and few people have ever come up and created a sound on their own. Let me give you an example of a few people who've created sounds. Femi Kuti, the father of Afrobeat. Najua wengi hamjui, but huyo ndio baba ya Afrobeat. He was able to infuse jazz and the traditional Nigerian music. He traveled to the Yoruba, to the Igbo people, to the Hausa people, understood their music, then infused it with the modern jazz. He was a really nice jazz player. And then created a unique sound. And from there, Afrobeat was born. And that's why you feel Afrobeat always has that strong jazz sound, strong African drums, the beats. It's all associated to Femi Kuti. Na kona katalogu mzuri sana. If you are born on a weekend, just enda sikiza ngoma yake inaitwa Bang Bang. Bang Bang. Dedicated to your someone. Anyway, that was one of the funniest songs zenye nilisikiza zake. Usiniulize ni kwa nini nilisikiza Bang Bang. Enda kwa nini hiyo ndio imestick kwa mind. Anyway, in Kenya, do we really have a musician who's been able to create a sound on his own? We had a sound called Twist by Twisty, which was in like the 1960s. It's well associated to Daudi Kabaka. Twisty was a type of guitar playing that involved playing both rhythm and lead at the same time. Putting all those lead licks pamoja. So there was always that you are playing the rhythm and at the same time bado unacheza hizo licks za lead But we wouldn't associate Twisty with Daudi Kabaka alone. He played a major role, but there were other people who also played an active role in building. However, there's one man called George Mukabi. George Mukabi was a Luya musician. He's the one who came up with the song Mtoto singuo utaomba mtu, mtoto singuo utaomba mtu mama. That guy, it said that he had a intense but very short career in the musical industry of 7 years. But in that 7 years, he created a genre of music that was called Omotivo. He's actually one of the few Kenyan musicians to have ever created a genre of music. It was not exactly because he was Luya. It was not exactly ati isukuti or any other kind of Luya music, because pia wa Luya wakona so many genres of music. Unawaelewa tu wa Luya. But Omotibo is actually a Kisii word to mean something that leads to nowhere. Yani ni kama ni kitu cast, kitu imeshika watu, kitu itawapoteza. So that was the name that people used to it used to be used because people would follow him everywhere. So chief akiulizwa anasema hey, ni Omotivo, anaenda huko kufuata hiyo kimtu, inakaa ni kama wamepotea njia. But he took it and turned it into something good, and the beats were quite fast. You can imagine kwanza hiyo mtoto singuo, you just feel just like waking up, uamke tu dance, move your mabega and such. I think if a Kenyan artist anataka kuunda club banga, anaweza unda na hiyo ya Omotivo. Inaweza unda club banga moja noma sana. Ama upate msem fulani ana rap na Ohangala, ana rap na beat ya Ohangala ama ya Isukuti. And then sasa inaongezewa tu mistari tu noma. Hebu imagine venye ngoma itakuwa noma. Alafu just imagine a Kenyan song yenye ni R&B fulani hapo hivi. R&B fulani tunataka kasikizwaji huko majuu. Sasa kanaibwa na Nikita Kering. Alafu wako R&B beat ni ya taarab. Na alafu inaongezea maybe rap ya Nyashinski na yana kuja kupea hiyo beat kabiting. As the secular musical scene in Kenya continues to understand what exactly is their sound, I feel the gospel music industry in Kenya has really got to understand what is the kind of their sound, and most people have actually ran away with it. And they are actually demonstrating that it's possible to create a Kenyan sound without running away from your culture. I'll give you 3 good examples from 3 different cultures. 1, Sarah K, leading in the Kikuyu culture, in the gospel industry. Number 2, Wilberforce Musyoka, leading in the gospel industry, in the Kamba scene. Number 3, Pastor Kitui in the Luya culture. And I would actually pinpoint quite a number of them, almost from every community, who are actually showing that it's possible to create a Kenyan sound that goes beyond our borders, is listened to, but still has that authenticity of it. If it's Sarake, you can feel the kegosho in a song. Kama ni Pastor Kitui, you can always tell the isukuti, you can always feel iko na uluya ndani yake. Wimbo yenye anapiga unasikia iko na uluya ndani yake. Ni ngoma ngapi tunatoa zenye ziko na uluya ndani yake? Music, the gospel industry have demonstrated it and have begun by that example. And pia msiseme hakuna example from the secular world. Wakadinali are slowly shaping the game, so it's over to you wasanii. Let's think, is it outside the box or inside the box? Or let's pick Kenyan sound tuende huko nyuma tuangalie ngoma noma. Hata msee apige tu remix fulani ya malaika nakupenda malaika. You know, actually that song was almost stolen. People think that it's a Tanzanian song, but it's actually a Kenyan song. It was recorded in Kenya by Fadhili Williams and another guy. I hear Fadhili Williams ndiye alikuwa na back, the other guy sikumbuki alikuwa anaitwa nani, but walikuwa na record na Fadhili Williams. But when the record, when someone bought the rights to the song akaenda nayo South Africa, it was redone by the likes of kina Miriam Makeba. Was it Miriam Makeba? I think so. And when she started introducing the song, she introduced the song as a Tanzanian song, whereas it was a Kenyan song. Na sisi Wakenya hizo time wakapoil tu hata wakutetea song yao. Sasa song wasa nafikiria ngani ya TZ lakini ni yetu. So if we don't have a sound of our own that people can identify with in ya Kenya, hii si ya kibongo, hii ni sound ya Kenya, how will people know what is ours and what is not ours? You can always listen to a song and say this, hii ni Afrobeat, hii ni ya mapiano, hii ni reggae Jamaica, hii ni hip hop USA. What's our sound? What's our authenticity? What is it, in as much as we are borrowing from these other musical scenes, that we can always say is our authenticity? Wakadinali wametuonyesha example now, and I've also given the examples of the gospel scene. So over to you guys.